At 30,000 feet above the heartland, a titan of industry, worth billions, gasped for air. 53 souls watched, frozen, as life flickered in her eyes. Some whispered prayers, some averted their gaze. One man, in the opulent quiet of business class, raised his phone, its lens already composing the perfect shot. His fingers danced, crafting a caption for the digital world. A fleeting moment of tragedy captured for likes. But in seat 37B, wedged between a broken lavatory door and a child's restless sleep, Elijah Hayes, a black man, rose, his hands, calloused and scarred from years of scrubbing the gleaming floors of corporate towers at midnight, were dark, rough, a testament to unseen labor. His 8-year-old daughter, Zoe, clutched a half-eaten granola bar, their only sustenance since yesterday's dawn. His mother, Grace, lay dying in a Phoenix hospital, 2,000 miles away. He had precisely 3 hours and 47 minutes left to say goodbye. In 2 minutes and 53 seconds, he saved the billionaire's life. Then he vanished. No name, no reward, no trace. What she would later uncover about him would shatter every gilded belief she held about success, about worth, and about the invisible people she had walked past her entire privileged life. Eleanor Vance arrived at Vance Tower before the first sliver of light, as she had every single day. For 15 years, the 67th floor, a glass eyrie, stretched beneath her. Chicago sprawling like a kingdom she had forged from maxed-out credit cards, and an unyielding refusal to fail. Her coffee was black, no room for cream. She had no time for complications. The Bloomberg terminal cycled through pre-market futures, a relentless pulse, while her Wall Street Journal lay open, a yellow highlighter, a fierce beacon on the sections that mattered. 19 days until IPO. Vance Medical Corporation, valued at $4.2 billion. Her phone buzzed, a text from Marcus, her younger brother. Bored, restless about Q3, some members questioning leadership priorities. Lunch tomorrow? We should strategize, sis. She deleted it without a second thought. Marcus had coveted her chair since the day she founded this company. 15 years he had waited for her to stumble. 15 years of watching, calculating, positioning himself for the moment she showed weakness. Dr. Lena Petrova appeared in the doorway, 68 years old, silver-haired. She was the only person on earth who dared call Eleanor by her first name without permission. Ellie, you look like death warmed over. When did you last truly sleep? Eat something that wasn't from a vending machine. Eleanor didn't look up. Sleep is for people who aren't 19 days from the largest medical technology IPO in NASDAQ history. Lena studied her with a clinical concern that bordered on sorrow. Your mother worked herself into an early grave. Heart attack at 51. Alone in her office at 2 in the morning. You were 24. Don't make me watch history repeat itself. Eleanor said nothing. Her mother had left her one inheritance, the bone-deep terror of poverty, and an iron determination to never be weak, never be dependent, never be invisible again. She had built walls so high, no one could see inside them. She had constructed armor so thick, nothing could penetrate it. She didn't know yet that armor could also become a prison. 2,000 miles west, Elijah Hayes had been awake. For 37 hours, his shoes, worn beyond repair, were held together with duct tape on the inside, where no one could see the shame. The plane ticket in his pocket, $139 on Spirit Airlines, had consumed 3 months of skipped lunches and creative accounting with the electric bill. Zoe walked beside him through O'Hare's fluorescent corridors. 8 years old, tight curls perpetually escaping her puff ponytail. She clutched a faded frozen backpack, containing everything precious in her world, a one-eyed teddy bear named Mr. Patches, that her mother, Alia, had bought from a hospital gift shop the day before she died. A photograph of Alia in a wedding dress, a beautiful black woman whose warmth Zoe had never truly known, and half a Nature Valley granola bar that Elijah had saved from his Amazon warehouse break room. Daddy, why do airplane tickets cost so much? Zoe asked, her voice a soft whisper. Because they carry us to people we love, Zoe girl. She considered this with the profound gravity only 8-year-olds possess. Then love must be really expensive. Is that why we don't have very much? The question cut through him like surgical steel. We have plenty of love, sweetheart. Just not plenty of money. They're different things. Miss Hernandez says in America, they're the same thing, Zoe countered, her brow furrowed. She says that's why her sister can't afford her medicine. Elijah had no answer for that. Some truths were too heavy for airport terminals at 5 in the morning. His phone vibrated. Phoenix General Hospital. Mr. Hayes, this is Dr. Patterson. Your mother's condition has deteriorated significantly overnight. If you want to see her, you should come now. I'm so sorry. Grace Hayes had raised him alone after his father left, with a 23-year-old secretary when Elijah was 6. She had worked double shifts at Denny's for 19 years so he could graduate from nursing school without drowning in debt. When Alia, Zoe's mother, died and the medical bills reached $847,000, Grace had sold her car and moved into a trailer park in Phoenix to help him survive. Now she was dying of pancreatic cancer, and he had 3 hours and 47 minutes to say goodbye. The plane lifted off from Chicago, carrying its cargo of separate lives towards separate destinations. In first class, Eleanor reviewed IPO documents on a laptop. That cost more than Elijah earned in 2 months, in row 37. Zoe fell asleep against her father's shoulder. Mr. Patches clutched to her chest, exhausted from waking at 4 in the morning. 35 minutes into the flight, Eleanor reached for her water glass. Her throat tightened. Strange. The shrimp from the catered lunch her assistant had ordered. A sudden, searing pain ripped through her chest. Her vision blurred. The world tilted. The air thickened, a suffocating darkness closing in. Eleanor's throat seized. Her chest a vice of steel, each breath a desperate, failing gasp. Panic erupted. A primal scream tore through the cabin. Flight attendants, faces stark white, rushed forward, their movements frantic, uncoordinated. In 3C, a man raised his phone, recording the spectacle. No one moved to help. Eleanor's vision blurred, the edges dissolving into a terrifying gray. She was dying, suspended miles above the earth, surrounded by a sea of strangers, utterly alone. All her wealth, her influence, her empire built over decades, rendered utterly useless against a simple, swift allergic reaction. A cruel, ironic end. Then hands, strong, gentle, calloused hands touched her face, moving with a practiced, almost sacred precision. Someone tilted her head back, fingers finding her carotid pulse with the certainty of long experience. A silent promise in their touch. "Ma'am, I'm a nurse. Stay with me. You're going to be okay." Through the swirling gray fog, a face materialized. Not polished, not privileged, just a man, exhausted, worried. His kind brown eyes holding hers like anchors in a raging storm. Behind him, a small, solemn face. A little girl with tangled curls and a one-eyed teddy bear, watching with wide, terrified eyes. "Daddy, is the lady going to die?" Her whisper, a fragile plea. "No, Zoe. She's going to be just fine." He said it like a sacred vow, like he held dominion over life and death. And somehow, impossibly, Eleanor believed him. Elijah Reed's hands remembered everything. 8 years away from the sterile glow of an ICU, 8 years scrubbing floors and loading boxes. But muscle memory doesn't forget. Airway clear, pulse weak and thready, lips cyanotic, classic anaphylaxis severe, progressing fast. "She's in anaphylactic shock. I need the emergency medical kit. Now, does anyone have an EpiPen?" His voice cut through the chaos, commanding. Flight attendants scrambled. Eli assessed, calculated, prepared. The kit arrived. He seized the EpiPen, checked the dosage, positioned it against her lateral thigh. 1, 2, 3. Hold for 10 seconds. Breathe with me, in and out. Slow and steady. You're doing great. Color flooded back to her face. The steel bands around her chest loosened. She gasped, coughed, then breathed. A wave of applause erupted. A flight attendant touched his shoulder. "Sir, you saved her life. Can we get your name for our records? The airline will want to recognize." Eli checked his watch, his face draining of color. "Monitor her closely. Second dose in 15 to 20 minutes if symptoms return. Have paramedics waiting at the gate." He stood, taking Zoe's small hand. "Sir, your name." But he was already moving, back down the aisle, back to row 37, back to the shadows, to invisibility. Eleanor struggled to lift her head. Through the receding chaos, she caught a glimpse, a faded jacket, worn shoes, a child's small hand clasped in a larger, rougher one. Then nothing. He dissolved into the crowd. Like he had never existed at all. Eli made it to Phoenix with 11 minutes to spare. His mother, Esther, opened her eyes one last time. When she heard his voice, she reached for his hand, the same rough hand that had just pulled a stranger back from death, and her lips moved with the last of her strength. "Don't be afraid to live again, Eli. Promise me." "Son, you've been hiding for 8 years. Lena wouldn't want that. Zoe needs you whole, not just surviving. Find something. Find someone. Let yourself be seen. I promise, Mom." She smiled, closed her eyes, and slipped away. 2,000 miles east, Eleanor Vance lay in a private hospital suite at Northwestern Memorial. Machines beeping confirmation of her survival. Haunted by a question she couldn't answer: who saves a stranger's life and asks for absolutely nothing in return? The investigation began the next morning. Eleanor hired Marcus Sterling, former FBI Chicago field office, $500 an hour. She didn't care about the cost. She needed to understand. "Your mystery man is a ghost." Sterling reported 2 weeks later. 847 passengers on that flight. Dozens of men traveling with children. But this guy, it's like he's practiced being invisible. Security cameras never catch his face clearly. Practiced. Some people learn not to be seen. Usually means they've spent a long time being overlooked. The breakthrough came from cross-referencing emergency room admissions. Within 500 miles of Phoenix, terminal cancer patient Esther Reed, 67, died the same day as the flight. Next of kin listed, Elijah James Reed. Son Sterling slid the complete dossier across her mahogany desk. Elijah James Reed, 38 years old, former registered nurse, license still active, but unemployed in healthcare since 2016. Bachelor of Science in Nursing from Rush University. Student debt paid off through bankruptcy settlement. Current employment, night custodian at Willis Tower. $12.75 an hour, no benefits. Warehouse associate at Amazon. $16.50 an hour. Classified as seasonal for 14 months. Weekend handyman, cash basis. Whatever he could find on Craigslist. Previous employment, Northwestern Memorial Hospital ICU, 2009 to 2016. Exemplary performance reviews all 7 years. Resigns citing personal reasons. Spouse, Lena Bellamy Reed, deceased December 2016. Cause of death, postpartum hemorrhage complications during childbirth. Medical debt incurred, $847. 312. Daughter, Zoe Mae Reed, age 8. Free lunch program at Shields Elementary, income qualified. Current bank balance, $247.18. Eviction notice filed October 15th. Eleanor stared at the file. $247. The man who saved her $3 billion life had $147 to his name. There's more, Sterling said quietly. 6 days. 6 days since the earth swallowed his mother. The service, a whisper in an empty room. Elijah Thorne felt hollowed out, a man who'd forgotten how to breathe. He'd stopped fighting, or so he thought. Eleanor Vance found him in the sprawling, sun-baked parking lot of Metropolitan General Hospital. 8 days after his mother's death, he stood beside a battered sedan, 251. 0 miles on the odometer, staring at it like it was a foreign object. 73 hours without sleep had carved canyons in his face, leaving him operating on nothing but raw instinct and the desperate, primal urge to keep moving. He heard the sharp click of her heels on the asphalt and turned. Everything about her screamed a world he didn't belong to. The silk scarf, the designer heels, the sunglasses that probably cost more than his entire life savings. He almost didn't recognize her. Then the memory hit. "I've been looking for you." His laugh scraped out, a dry, bitter sound. "You shouldn't have. You saved my life. Anyone would have done the same. But they didn't." She stepped closer, her voice a low hum. 53 people watch me die. One man filmed it for social media. You were the only one who moved. A heavy silence descended, thick with unspoken truths. The city wind, carrying the grit of 1,000 forgotten struggles, swirled around them. I had somewhere to be, he said, his voice rough. My mother was dying. Past tense, she heard it. I know. I'm so sorry. I found the funeral notice. I should have come. He shook his head, a weary gesture. Don't want thanks, don't want sympathy, don't want anything. Just want to get through today, tomorrow, that's it. Her gaze fell to the eviction notice peeking from his jacket pocket. Let me help you. His face hardened, a mask of defiance. I don't need charity. This isn't charity. Then what is it? His voice rose, cracking with suppressed fury. Guilt, money. You feel bad that the man who saved your billion-dollar life can't make rent, that my daughter, Maya, qualifies for free lunch because I work 3 jobs, and still can't break the poverty line. He stepped closer, 8 years of righteous rage finally finding its voice. I was a nurse, Ms. Vance, a good one, 8 years in the ICU, saved hundreds of lives, and my wife bled out on a delivery table because some insurance algorithm needed 47 minutes to authorize a procedure. That should have happened immediately. His voice broke, raw with pain. The system. You're part of the system that made you a billionaire. It killed my wife, bankrupted my family, took my career, and now it's taking the only home my daughter has ever known. Eleanor said nothing for a long, agonizing moment. Then, she did something she had never done in 42 years of clawing her way to the top. She lowered herself onto the hot concrete curb, her designer dress collecting the city dust. You're right. Eli stared at her, disbelief warring with his anger. You're right about everything. I run a medical technology company. We build diagnostic systems, imaging tools, things that help hospitals work faster. But the system that uses those tools. She looked up at him, and for the first time, he saw something crack in her impenetrable armor. It's broken. It's been broken my whole career. And I've done nothing, because fixing it doesn't show up on quarterly earnings. She pulled off her sunglasses. Her eyes were red-rimmed with exhaustion and something that looked almost like profound shame. I almost died on that plane, and the only person who helped me was someone the system had completely failed. Someone invisible to everyone in first class. Eli sat down beside her, not close, but not far. What do you want from me? My foundation runs a healthcare reentry program, scholarships for nurses who left the field, housing assistance, child care support, full tuition, job placement, in exchange for 3 years working in underserved communities. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to apply. Because your license is still active. Because you saved my life with skills you haven't used in 8 years. And that means something. She paused, her gaze steady. Because I need to believe that what I've built actually matters. Eli was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke. My mother's last words. She made me promise not to be afraid. Afraid of what? He looked at this woman from a world he had never touched, sitting in the dirt with him like it was the most natural thing in the world. Living, he said. I've been hiding for 8 years. Maya wouldn't want that. She said Maya needs me whole, not just surviving. Was she right? She was always right, even when I didn't want her to be. He picked up a pebble, turning it over in his calloused fingers. This program, it's work, not charity. Every penny earned, every certification passed, every patient served. You prove yourself, or you're out. And for Maya, foundation housing in a safe neighborhood, an after-school program, covered health care for both of you, real health care. He thought about the eviction sheriff arriving in 39 hours, about Mrs. Delgado's cramped apartment, about his mother's voice, don't be afraid. He extended his hand, okay. Eleanor took it. The connection was electric, unexpected, terrifying for both of them, okay. Julian Vance learned about his sister's new project. Within the week, he sat in his corner office, bespoke suit perfectly pressed, reviewing the reports. His private investigator had compiled, the former janitor, the scholarship Eleanor's car, parked outside an East Side apartment building at 11:43 at night. Perfect. At the next board meeting, he planted the first seeds of doubt. My sister's recent behavior concerns me. Significant Foundation resources diverted to locate a single economy passenger. Now she's sponsoring a custodian who abandoned his medical career 8 years ago. Lena Chen, a formidable board member, shut him down. Eleanor's judgment built this company from nothing. Julian. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Loyalty to the people. Margot, not to the power brokers. Senator Thorne thinks he can wait us out. He thinks a few more months of pressure will make the Beacon initiative crumble. But Elijah Vance wasn't waiting. He was building, rebuilding. Each dawn found him hunched over textbooks. The city's a distant lullaby. Pharmacology, advanced cardiac life support, trauma protocols, every word a brick in the fortress he was constructing against a past he couldn't change, and a future he would change. Coffee cups, silent sentinels, marked the hours. Sticky notes, a vibrant mosaic, mapped the pathways of his new purpose. Their foundation apartment in Freedom Heights was small, but it was theirs, a sanctuary. Zola, for the first time since the world had tilted, had her own room. Butterfly stickers bloomed across the walls, a silent testament to hope. Mr. Patches, her worn teddy, stood guard beside Serafina's framed smile on the nightstand. That first night, Elijah stood in her doorway, the city lights painting shadows on her sleeping face. A real bed, not a floor mattress. He watched her, and the dam broke, tears hot and heavy, a torrent of grief and gratitude, until his soul felt hollowed out, yet somehow whole. His hands, once surgeons of life, then idle with grief, remembered the crisp, cool fabric of scrubs, a ghost of a past life, a promise of a future. The stethoscope, cold against his palm, then warm against a chest, each beat a rhythm of life, a pulse of hope. For the first time, he heard it without seeing Serafina's face, without the phantom echo of monitors screaming. Dr. Lena Hayes moved through the foundation like a force of nature, sharp, driven, yet with an undercurrent of profound empathy. She'd find him in the quiet hours, a steaming mug of coffee appearing silently beside his books. She'd help Zola with homework, her laughter echoing softly through the halls when Elijah was lost in clinical rotations. They built a silent bridge between them, unspoken, yet undeniable. Neither was ready to name it. But it was there, a fragile, growing thing. For months in, the final exam loomed. At 3:17 a.m., Lena found him in the deserted Foundation cafeteria, head in his hands. Pharmacology textbook splayed open to a chapter he'd read a dozen times. Can't sleep either. Her voice was soft, a whisper in the vast silence. He looked up. She was in faded jeans, a worn university sweatshirt, no makeup, no armor. Just Lena, more human than he'd ever seen her. Metoprolol, carvedilol, it's all a blur. He confessed, his voice raw. 8 years is a lifetime away. She slid into the seat opposite him. Tell me about her, Serafina. The name hung in the air, a fragile ghost. He was silent for so long. Lena thought she'd pushed too far. Then, the dam broke again. 8 years of unspoken grief poured out. She taught kindergarten, special education, kids with learning differences, behavioral challenges, the ones nobody else had patience for. She'd come home covered in finger paint and glitter, smelling like Play-Doh, telling me about some 5-year-old who said his first full sentence, or tied his shoes without help. His voice cracked, then Zola, easy pregnancy, no complications, until the delivery. Placental abruption, massive hemorrhage. I was there. I was a nurse. I knew exactly what was happening. His gaze dropped to the scarred tabletop, seeing not wood, but the sterile white of a delivery room. But I wasn't her doctor. I was her husband. I had to stand there and watch. Lena reached across the table, her hand covering his, a silent anchor. They made us wait, he whispered, his voice a raw wound, authorization, bureaucracy, every second. I watched her fade, knowing exactly what was happening, powerless. By the time they finally approved the surgery, it was too late. She looked at me, blood everywhere. Monitors screaming their death knell, and whispered, "Take care of our Zola, Eli. Promise me." Then her hand went limp in mine, and she was gone. That's why I left nursing. Every patient became her. Every code blue. Those monitors screamed Serafina's name. I couldn't function, so I ran. took jobs where no one depended on me to stay alive, where I couldn't fail. He met her gaze, a flicker of something new in his eyes. But you saved me. You weren't a patient, you were just a person who needed help. My body moved before my brain could stop it. Lena squeezed his hand. Maybe that's who you really are, Elijah. Someone who moves when everyone else freezes. Someone who fights for those who can't. Zola, with the wisdom of a child who had seen too much, understood things adults often missed. She found Lena on the foundation playground one afternoon, swinging half-heartedly on equipment built for children a quarter her age. "Do you know how to swing?" Zola asked, her voice bright. "Daddy says grown-ups forget." Lena tried to remember the last time she'd felt the wind in her hair from a swing. Decades, surely. Zola demonstrated, a tiny maestro of momentum. Lena tried, nearly toppling. Zola's laughter, like wind chimes, filled the air. Then, her face grew serious. "Miss Lena, can I ask you something important?" "Anything, Zola. Do you like my daddy? Like him?" Lena's heart caught in her throat. "Because he talks about you a lot. He says you're brave and smart and you see people other people don't. He said you saw him when everyone else looked right through him, like he was a window instead of a person." Zola nodded emphatically. "I think you'd be a good girlfriend for him, but only if you're not going to leave. Because Mommy left and Grandma Lorraine left, and I don't want Daddy to be sad again." Lena knelt, meeting Zola's intense gaze, so much like Serafina's in the photographs. "Zola, I would never hurt your daddy on purpose, not ever." "That's what Mommy said too," Zola whispered, "but she still left." "Your mommy didn't choose to leave, sweetheart," Lena said, her voice thick with emotion. "She wanted to stay more than anything in the world." "How do you know?" Zola asked, her eyes wide. "Because any mother who had you would never want to go." Zola considered this then. With a fierce hug around Lena's neck, she declared, "Okay, I believe you. But if you make Daddy cry, I'll be really, really mad." Something shifted within Lena, a lock she hadn't known existed, finally clicking open. The annual Beacon Initiative Gala. Senator Thorne chose this night to strike. 500 guests filled the grand ballroom of the city's most opulent hotel. Donors, board members, politicians. The air crackled with anticipation, unaware of the storm about to break, unaware that the fight for Freedom Heights, for Elijah's future, for Zola's hope, was about to begin. Serafina Thorne wore a midnight blue Valentino gown, a beacon of grace. Elijah Vance, in his first tailored suit since his beloved Aaliyah's passing, felt the unfamiliar weight of fine fabric. Serafina had arranged it, a silent gesture of support he couldn't afford to question. Nia stayed home with Elena, safe from the glittering, scrutinizing eyes of this world. Mid-event, Silas Thorne, Serafina's brother, seized the stage, his voice, a practiced veneer of concern, boomed through the opulent ballroom. "Before we continue," he began, "I must address pressing concerns regarding the Phoenix Rising Initiative's operations." The colossal screen behind him flared to life, displaying carefully curated photographs, Elijah and Serafina sharing coffee. In the Foundation cafeteria, Serafina's car parked outside Elijah's modest apartment building late at night. "A former custodian," Silas declared, his voice dripping with condescension. "A man who abandoned his nursing career for 8 years, fast-tracked through our program, while more qualified candidates wait. Given housing, tuition, childcare benefits worth over $175,000, all while my sister personally supervises his progress." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Phones rose like a field of digital sunflowers, their lenses turning towards the unfolding spectacle. "I'm not suggesting anything improper," Silas continued, a venomous smile playing on his lips. "I'm simply asking, is this an appropriate use of donor funds? Or has our CEO confused philanthropy with personal interest?" 500 pairs of eyes, wealthy, polished, and judging, swiveled towards Elijah. Everything he had ever feared, that he didn't belong, that he was a charity case, that he would never be anything more than an invisible man from the cheap seats, was confirmed before an audience who had never known a day of struggle. He stood, not running, too proud for that, but each step towards the exit was a battle fought and lost within his soul, Elijah. Serafina's voice cut through the din, but he didn't stop. He sat in the suffocating darkness of his apartment, Aaliyah's wedding ring, heavy on the chain around his neck, a cold comfort. He had been right all along. He didn't belong in her world. Never had, never would. The door creaked open. Tiny footsteps. Daddy, Nia's voice, a fragile melody. Elena said you came home early. Why are you sitting in the dark? Just thinking, little one. Go back to bed. But she sat beside him on the worn couch instead. You're sad. I can tell. Is it because of the mean man at the fancy party? What mean man? Elijah whispered, his voice hoarse. Miss Serafina called, Nia said, her small hand finding his. She said a mean man said bad things about you in front of everyone. She said he's a liar, and she's going to fix it. Nia nodded, her eyes wide. She said to tell you something important. She said, the invisible man was never invisible to me. Tell him I see him. Tell him I've always seen him. And tell him I'm not going anywhere. Something cracked in Elijah's chest, a frozen dam breaking after 8 long years. Nia curled against his side. I see you too, Daddy. You're the best daddy, even when you're sad. The emergency board meeting convened at 9 a.m. the next morning. Silas Thorne sat at the head of the polished mahogany table, a smug, predatory glint in his eyes, anticipating victory. Board members shifted uncomfortably. Isabella Rossi, a formidable ally, radiated silent fury. Serafina entered, calm, composed, and utterly dangerous. The board has serious concerns. Silas began, his voice oozing false authority. The board has concerns, Silas. Serafina cut him off, her voice a steel blade. Or you have concerns? She placed a thick, unassuming folder on the table. Since we're being transparent, let me share some findings. 3 years of forensic accounting, shell corporations in the Cayman Islands, wire transfers to accounts registered solely in your name. Her gaze locked onto Silas, whose face drained of all color. $4.7 million embezzled from both the Phoenix Rising Initiative and the corporation since 2021. The SEC has been investigating for 18 months, Serafina continued, her voice unwavering. I've been cooperating quietly, building the case, waiting to see how far you would go. Now I know. She turned to the stunned board. My brother has been stealing from this company for 3 years. When embezzlement wasn't enough to force me out, he manufactured a scandal. He weaponized a good man's dignity. In my attempt to help him, her eyes, sharp and unwavering, met Silas's. Elijah Vance's scholarship is documented, transparent, and awarded through standard foundation processes. His test scores are in the 97th percentile of all program participants. He has saved 3 patient lives during clinical rotations. 2 agents in dark suits entered. Their presence is silent, undeniable judgment. But your embezzlement, Silas, that's documented too. Bank records, wire transfers, offshore accounts. The FBI has everything. Goodbye, Silas. He was escorted out, the room falling into a stunned silence. Serafina addressed the remaining board members. If anyone else has concerns about my judgment, speak now. Because here's what I know. 8 months ago, I almost died on a plane. A man who works 3 jobs and can't afford health insurance saved my life. He asked for nothing, expected nothing, and disappeared before anyone could thank him. She paused, her voice resonating with profound conviction. That man taught me something I'd forgotten. While building this company, he taught me that worth isn't measured in stock prices or quarterly earnings. It's measured in what you do when no one's watching, in whether you help someone who has nothing to offer you. Her gaze swept across the faces around the table. If this board believes that supporting people like Elijah is an inappropriate use of foundation resources, then you can have my resignation, because I'd rather lose this chair than lose the first person who ever saw me as something other than a balance sheet. Isabella Rossi smiled, a fierce, triumphant glint in her eyes. I move we table all discussion of the CEO's personal relationships and refocus on the criminal referral for Silas Thorne. Do I have a second? The vote was unanimous. Elijah was waiting in the Phoenix Rising Initiative lobby when Serafina emerged from the elevator. 3 hours later, she looked exhausted, triumphant, and utterly resolute. Silas has been arrested, she said, a quiet strength in her voice. The board voted unanimously to support me. Their eyes met, a silent promise of a new dawn. Elijah crossed the chasm between them in 3 powerful strides, pulling Serafina into his arms. She stiffened for a moment. Decades of armor, forged in the crucible of injustice, resisting the unfamiliar sensation of being truly held. Then she melted against him, her face pressed into his shoulder, her body shaking with a torrent of grief and relief she had held captive for years. "I thought I lost you," she whispered, her voice raw. "When they took you, when they silenced your truth, I thought you were gone forever. I almost was." His voice was a rough whisper against her hair, Zola's unwavering belief. "Your relentless fight for justice, they were my anchors." Serafina pulled back, wiping her eyes, a fierce determination still burning within them. "Every word I wrote, every truth I uncovered, I meant." He touched her face gently, pushing a stray curl behind her ear. "The world sees you now, Sira. It always should have. Your light pierced the darkest shadows." She laughed, a fragile, tear-streaked sound. "We're quite a pair, aren't we? A man unjustly silenced, who forgot what it was like to be free, and a journalist who fought for a truth no one wanted to hear. Maybe we can build something new. Together, maybe we can." They stood there, on the steps of the courthouse, 2 souls scarred by the system, holding each other up, finally ready to stop running from the future they both yearned for. 1 year after Elijah Vance walked free, he stood on the brightly lit stage of the Phoenix Community Center, a beacon of hope he had helped build. His voice, once silenced, now resonated with purpose. Serafina watched from the front row, a proud, knowing smile gracing her lips. "Daddy, Miss Sira." Zola burst through the double doors, her backpack bouncing, a whirlwind of joy. "Look what I made." She held up a drawing, vibrant with crayon. 3 stick figures holding hands, a tall, strong man, a woman with a determined gaze, a small girl with puff ponytails, and a tiny, one-eyed teddy bear. "Ms. Elena said to draw our future, so I drew our family." Serafina studied the drawing more closely. The tall figure held a microphone, rendered in bold purple crayon. The medium figure wore a tiny crown, holding a pen like a scepter. The small figure stood between them, arms stretched impossibly wide to hold both their hands. "Why does she have a crown, Zola?" Serafina asked softly. "Because Daddy says you're the queen of truth, Miss Sira. You found his truth when no one else would. But I think queens get lonely fighting for truth all by themselves," Zola continued, her voice earnest. "So I drew you with us instead. Queens need allies too." Serafina's breath caught in her throat. "And see this?" Zola pointed to the corner of the page where 2 smaller, ethereal figures floated among golden clouds and yellow crayon stars. "That's Mommy Anya and Grandma Lara. They're watching us from the stars. Ms. Elena says people we love never really leave. They just watch from somewhere we can't see." Elijah's eyes filled with tears. "They're smiling because we're happy," Zola continued, with a devastating clarity that only children possess. "Mommy wanted Daddy to be happy. She told him so. And Grandma Lara told him not to be scared. So this drawing is me showing them that he listened." She looked up at both adults with an innocent, profound wisdom. "Because Miss Sira makes Daddy happy, and you both make me feel safe. And families are the people who make you happy and safe. Right?" Elijah and Serafina looked at each other, a silent understanding passing between them. Zola's face clouded with sudden worry. "Is that okay, to have a new family? Mommy's with the stars, and Grandma Lara too. But we can still love them and have a new family. Right, Daddy?" Elijah knelt and pulled her into his arms. "Yes, baby. We can love Anya and Alara forever, and still have room for more love. Love isn't like justice. It doesn't run out when you share it." He looked at Serafina over Zola's head, his eyes shining. "They'd want this. They'd want us to live." Serafina joined the embrace. 3 people, arms intertwined, building a legacy of hope and resilience from shattered fragments and unyielding spirit. That night, after Zola fell asleep, Elijah sat alone with a worn, framed newspaper clipping, the headline of his wrongful conviction. 8 years he had carried its weight, a constant reminder, both a burden and a strange comfort. He held it in his palm, whispered to the darkness, "Anya, I think I'm ready. I hope you understand. You gave me Zola. You gave me everything good in my life for so long." He wiped his eyes. "But Alara was right. I've been hiding, and there's someone. She sees me. Really sees me. Not the accused, not the broken man who couldn't save himself. Just me." He placed the clipping in a small wooden box on his dresser. "Not throwing away. Not forgetting. Just making space. I'm not replacing you. I'm just making room. Like you told me that last night you said. Don't let this be the end of your story, Eli. I didn't understand then." He closed the box gently. "I understand now." 15 months after a tenacious journalist fought for a community leader's freedom, Elijah and Serafina stood together on a brightly lit stage. At the National Civil Rights Summit, Zola, beaming, sat in the front row. A young activist, barely out of college, was being aggressively questioned by a panel, his voice faltering, his spirit visibly shrinking under the pressure. Elijah was out of his seat before the moderator could even call for a break. Serafina was right behind him, already stepping to the microphone, her presence a shield. They worked together, a seamless, synchronized symphony of purpose, a team forged by crisis and unwavering trust. Elijah, with his calm, resonant voice, defended the young man's right to speak, citing precedents of free expression. Serafina, with her sharp, incisive questions, dismantled the opposition's arguments. Cutting through the panic and intimidation, the young activist, his voice now steady, continued his impassioned plea. A seasoned civil rights veteran, who had watched the whole thing, approached them afterward, her eyes wide with admiration. "How do you do that? You work like you've been partners forever." Elijah smiled, a profound peace in his eyes, a legacy of light in his soul. "Someone believed my truth was worth fighting for. She taught me to believe in it too." Anya took his hand, and in that touch, he understood what true worth meant. Not the currency of a system designed to diminish, but the immeasurable value of who you become when the world isn't watching. At the bustling Freedom Terminal, Zola darted ahead, a flash of pure joy. Elijah and Anya walked, hands almost meeting. She paused. "Your mother made you promise not to be afraid," she whispered, her voice a bridge to generations of resilience. "Are you still afraid?" He took her hand, the same calloused hand that had pulled her from the wreckage of a life unlived, the same hand that had navigated the storms of injustice, the same hand that had cradled his beloved Aaliyah, his mother, his daughter through nightmares of systemic monsters, and the chilling reality of eviction notices, of being overlooked, unheard. "Not anymore," he declared, a quiet revolution. "Good." Her voice was barely a breath. "Because I am terrified, and I need you to be brave enough for both of us." Her gaze met his. "What scares you?" "Losing this," he confessed. "Losing you, losing Zola, finding out I don't deserve this light. After 42 years of fighting in the shadows, not even knowing what true happiness felt like." He pulled her closer, a silent vow. "You deserve everything. You saw me when the world rendered me invisible. You gave me back my life, my voice. You gave Zola a family, a foundation. How could you not deserve to be part of the future you helped build?" Zola reappeared, her worn teddy bear, patches, tucked under one arm. "Are you guys gonna kiss?" "Because Auntie Maya says when grown-ups hold hands and look at each other like that, they're supposed to kiss." Laughter erupted, a sound so pure, so unexpected, it startled them both. A melody of triumph. "Maybe later," Elijah grinned. "Fine, but can we get dinner first, like a real family? Because that's what we are now, right? A real family." Elijah looked at Anya. Everything terrifying, everything perfect, everything he had stopped believing was possible. 8 years ago, when he held Aaliyah's hand and felt her slip away, a victim of a system that offered too little, too late. "Yes, Zola girl." Anya's voice was thick with emotion, a testament to their journey. "That's exactly what we are." They walked towards baggage claim, a united front. Zola in the middle, holding both their hands, swinging slightly with each step. His mother had told him, "Don't be afraid to live, son. Don't just survive." For 8 years, he thought living meant surviving, getting through each day, keeping Zola fed, keeping the lights on, keeping his head above the rising tide of systemic despair. Just enough to breathe, but that wasn't living, that was existing. Living was letting yourself be seen, truly seen, when you'd spent years practicing invisibility. It was accepting help when pride, born of hardship, screamed to refuse. It was believing you deserved good things when the world had spent 8 years teaching you otherwise. Living was looking at a second chance, a terrifying, impossible, beautiful second chance, and saying yes. He had said yes in a dusty parking lot in Phoenix. He had said yes every single day since. He would keep saying yes for the rest of his life. Yes to Zola. Yes to Anya. Yes to the family they were building. From broken pieces, borrowed hope, and a love that didn't run out when you shared it. The invisible man had finally let himself be seen, and in doing so, illuminated a path for all.